Because if you create resistance to feeling anxious, you're just gonna feel worse. It all boils down to the same thing, that those feelings, no matter how intense they are fleeting. Anxiety is created through fear-based thoughts. You have to start to move through that feeling. So instead of just sitting in it, which a lot of times you feel like you want to do, hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Adrienne. If you're not, thank you so much for clicking on another video. So today I wanted to sit down and talk to you a little bit about anxiety. Before we get into the video, if you are liking these videos, please go ahead and let me know. And if there's any topic you want me to talk about, also let me know in the comments below. If you enjoy videos like this and you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like this video, but obviously no pressure either. So without further ado, enough about that. Let's jump into the video. So today I actually had a whole nother video planned. I had a topic I was going to talk about, and I woke up today just super anxious. And as I thought about it, I was having trouble coming up with how I wanted to speak about the topic that I was originally going to talk about. It just didn't sit right, it didn't feel right, and it was actually causing me to be more anxious thinking about having to make that video. And I thought, you know what? Scratch that. Since I'm having an anxious day and I've learned ways to cope with my anxiety, why didn't I sit down and talk to you guys a little bit about how I figured out to cope with my anxiety and just keep it real. Like, I'm dealing with my anxiety today. I'm getting on camera anyways, regardless of feeling anxious. Why not just sit down and talk to you about what's really going on in my life right now, today, in this moment? So that's what I decided to do. I do want to have a disclaimer that I am not a therapist. I am not a mental health provider. I am just telling you simply what has worked for me. These are 5 coping mechanisms for anxiety that I have personally used that work for myself. They may not work for everybody. If you feel like you need mental health counseling or mental health help, please seek somebody to help you with that. This does not take the place of any of that. Again, just a disclaimer. So today I wanted to go over 5 specific tips to cope with your anxiety. So before I get into that, a little bit of background, like normal. I have been dealing with anxiety and depression, honestly, for about, I don't even know, I would say nearly for at least 10 years. I remember dealing with it in college, after college, PA school. I mean, pretty much it's been a part of my life for a long time, and I didn't always talk openly about my mental health on social media, but I feel as if it's an important thing for so many of us to talk about, because so many of us go through it and deal with it on a daily basis, and it's not always something that we feel we can talk about. So in having a platform on social media, I just find it very important that we talk about everything real, everything that we're all going through, and this is something that I deal with regularly, so I want to talk openly about it with you all in case it may help you. So that's, just wanted to give you a little background on that. And over the years, since I have been dealing with it so long, we're talking about anxiety today, my anxiety, and ways that I've found to cope with it. I have gone through a lot of different ways of trying to cope with it. You know, I've thought about medication. I've never actually been on anxiety medication. I have seen a therapist in the past. I've worked with a coach. I read a lot of self-help books. I do a lot of journaling, as you may have seen my last video on journaling, which helps me a lot with dealing with my anxiety. But today I wanted to just give you 5 specific tips on what I do on days like today where I just kind of woke up anxious and I couldn't really pinpoint why. And that's the first thing I want to say is, for those of you who aren't familiar with anxiety or may not understand it, or for those of you who do deal with it, I want you to be able to resonate with this and know you're not alone, is that anxiety sometimes happens for no reason. It's actually a normal emotion that most of us go through. Sometimes we don't even realize we're going through it, and there are levels to it. There's a spectrum of anxiety. You know, there's anxiety disorder, and then there's just like the fleeting anxious feelings we may get. Everyone experiences it a little bit differently, but a lot of times it is something that can just happen. We may have no idea why we're feeling anxious, and that's kind of how it happened for me today. And when that happens for me, these are some of the things that I do to help me cope with it and to help me get through it. So the first tip that I have for you is just accepting it. I used to do it all the time where I would get anxious for no reason, apparently, and I would beat myself up for that. When you have a reason, when you can say, oh, I feel anxious because of this, it can feel a lot easier to deal with it because we like to have reason in our heads. As humans, we want to have a reason. We want to be able to pinpoint, oh, I feel anxious, this is why, and it gives us a feeling like we can control it. Oh, we're in control, I know, this is why I'm feeling anxious. And having that sense of control helps ease that anxiety. However, if you don't know why you're anxious, you may not feel that control, and so you can start to spiral more. I used to, when I didn't really know why I was feeling anxious, I would beat myself up for it. So for example, on a day like today, I'm off work. It's a free day for me. I can do whatever I want with my day, and I woke up anxious. In the past, I would have said to myself, Adrienne, why the heck are you feeling anxious? You should not feel anxious. Why are you and just kind of spiral with that. Why are you feeling anxious? You shouldn't feel anxious. You have a whole day to yourself. Oh my gosh, you're ruining your day. Why you're ruining your day off. You shouldn't feel anxious. And just honestly, those probably few thoughts over and over and over and over and over, which would in turn make me feel worse and worse and worse and worse because I'm already feeling anxious, and then I'm beating myself up for feeling anxious. And then I feel more anxious because I'm beating myself up, and it just turns into this vicious cycle. So what I've learned over the last few years is when I start to feel anxious for, again, quote unquote, no apparent reason, there's always a reason, that's why I'm saying quote unquote, but if I can't figure it out, to just accept that I feel that way. To say, okay, today's an anxious day, I feel anxious, it is what it is, and I'm gonna do the best I can to support myself, to love myself through it, and to just accept where I am. That is the first thing. Because if you create resistance to feeling anxious, you're just gonna feel worse. It's gonna make you, it's gonna cycle in those horrible feeling thoughts of, like I just said, and it just doesn't make it any better. So why beat yourself up for feeling anxious? And just accept that you feel it. It's just an emotion. You're feeling it, it's okay. The number 2 tip that I have for coping with your anxiety is to remind yourself that you're okay, that in this moment you are okay and you are safe. Again, there's a spectrum to the anxiety. You may be feeling it where you're almost panicky, and then there's just that subtle anxious, something feels off feeling. But no matter what, anxiety is created through fear-based thoughts. You may not be able to recognize what thoughts are causing your anxiety. Like today, I honestly didn't really know and still don't really know why I'm feeling super anxious, but I am, and I know at the basis of all my anxiety are fear-based thoughts. So fear sends us into fight or flight mode, whether we feel it or not. And again, it's a spectrum. So your fight or flight mode just may be feelings of not just feeling off, or you could feel full-blown panic. So I say this, to calm yourself down, to remind yourself that you are safe in this moment. Everything is okay. Even though I feel anxious, I'm safe. I'm in my apartment, I'm in my body, I have myself, I'm here right now. Just taking a deep breath. It's okay. That's the second thing, is to just kind of bring yourself back to center and remind yourself you're okay right now. Because like I said, the anxious feelings are usually caused by fear-based thoughts. So kind of grounding yourself through that fear and reminding yourself you're okay right now is more so to calm down your nervous system. It's to calm down your body's reaction to your anxious feelings. So you have the thought that you may not be able to recognize that causes the emotion, that causes a reaction in your body. So by sitting down and calming yourself down and saying, I'm safe right now, you're calming that bodily reaction, that physical reaction to the anxious feelings. I hope that makes sense. But that's my second tip, is to just really sit with yourself and say, okay, I'm okay right now. I may feel anxious, but physically in this moment, I'm safe, I'm okay. So my third tip is to then, once you've kind of created that, okay, I'm safe feeling, I'm okay, and accepted that you feel anxious in this day or in this moment, is to then start to try to move that energy, to move that anxious feeling and emotion out of you. Because once you get stuck in that anxious feeling, you start to create an energy in your body and in your physical, in your physical body, that it's an energy, it needs to be moved. And a lot of times, literal movement can help you to kind of push that energy away and to start bringing in calmness and calming down your body. But you have to start to move through that feeling. So instead of just sitting in it, which a lot of times you feel like you want to do when you feel anxious, this is a lot of times what I did in the past, is if I had a day off like this and I felt anxious, instead of getting up and being productive or getting out of the house and moving, I would sit in it. I would take a nap, which isn't always the worst thing, or I would just sit in it. I would sit and I would watch Netflix to try to like dissociate from it. I would just sit in the feelings of anxiousness and let myself ruminate in them, which honestly cause, like, sometimes anxiety can cause like a paralyzing feeling where you just feel like you can't do anything else because you feel so anxious and overwhelmed that you just don't even know where to start. And in those moments, it's so crucial to just start moving. And I mean literally moving, so going on a walk, getting outside, dancing, like running, anything to just start moving, to literally start moving so that you can get out of your mind and start to physically move, to move that energy and that emotion through you is so important. But then also to do things that take care of you, that you know that in that moment maybe you don't feel like doing, but you know always calm you down. Take a bath, listen to some music, journal, talk to somebody, do something to just start moving through it, because energy is always in motion and there is anxious energy and you want to keep it moving. You don't want to keep it stagnant like in your body. So that's why doing these things to keep moving is so important. So that is the third tip I have for you. And I guess I kind of combined my third and my fourth tip. So third was to not sit and ruminate in your anxiety. Fourth tip was to get moving, to do things, to stay active, and to try to move that energy through you, to try to move that emotion through you so that it doesn't stay stagnant in your body. And then my fifth and final tip today is to simply remind yourself that it'll pass, that you will not feel anxious forever, that you are gonna be okay. Again, everybody feels anxiety on different levels, so it's maybe easy for me to say that to somebody who is just kind of having an anxious day like me versus someone who's having a full-blown panic attack, but it all boils down to the same thing, that those feelings, no matter how intense they are fleeting. They aren't going to last forever, especially if you do take the steps to take care of yourself. But reminding yourself that in the moment, even if you don't do anything else, just reminding yourself, you're okay, this will pass, you're okay, this will pass, is so important. So these are all tips that I personally do for myself. They are things that I have done today, all 5 of them. So I just want to remind you what they are. The first is to just accept that you feel anxious, to remind yourself it is what it is, and don't beat yourself up for it. The second tip is to also remind yourself that it's okay, that you're okay in this moment, to try to calm your nervous system down and to calm that physical reaction you're having to that emotion down. Third is to not sit and ruminate in your anxiety and your anxious thoughts. Fourth is to get out and to start, not even to get out, but to do something that calms you down or to move that anxious energy through you. And then fifth is to remind yourself that it will pass. Again, this was just some things that I've learned that help me, that I hopefully will help you. And that is actually all I have for this video today. Again, if you enjoyed this video, or if you have any other tips that maybe you find helpful for yourself when you're going through anxious moments, please leave those in the comments below. If there's some good ones, I will pin those so that other people can see them. And I think that's it. I appreciate you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye, guys.